Good morning, guys. This is Carrie, and I am back with Larry Cotton, and he is our housing guru. So he is the guy that I feel like has years and years and years of vocational ministry experience, and now he's ministering through real estate in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And we've known their family for a long time and just really adore their family and appreciate their wisdom, and just really am thankful that you're going to talk us through today this process of buying a home. So a little bit kind of like a chronology, I guess, of what we can expect the process to look like.
Yep. Thank you, Carrie, for sure. I think that as I have worked with clients, a lot of clients just really expect. For sure, if you're first-time home buyer, you wouldn't necessarily know what to expect in purchasing a home. And then there are a number of people, as we've mentioned, that they don't buy a home that often. They're maybe going to buy 5 homes in their whole lifetime at the most. And why would you want to know and just memorize every step in the process if you're not doing it regularly? But for a real estate agent, and one you can trust, they're going to be doing this on a weekly basis and very, very familiar with this process. And so I thought it would help to have a diagram and to kind of walk through this process with everyone. And then this diagram will be on a PDF link that we'll post, and that way they can pull this down and print it and just have it as a resource. So I'm going to share my screen and kind of walk us through the process. Showing up, Carrie?
It says, oh, there we go. Yep.
Okay, good. So you'll see this kind of clock, if you will, and we'll go clockwise around the circle to kind of identify different segments or different situations or different time frames. And I'm going to make a few comments, and then Carrie, you feel free to interrupt and ask questions that pop into your mind.
Sounds good.
So one of the things out to the side here says the buyer's advantage. And this is always important to know, and I don't know how it works in other countries, but here in the U.S., by and large, in all the states, the home buyer is working with an agent. The agent, me, is paid by the cost that the seller is building in to their home price. And so if I'm working with you, Carrie, you don't have to pay me to help you find a home. When we close the home, it's my payment, my compensation is built into the closing cost, and that is not something that you have to factor in or in any way worry about. But that's just important to know. All things in real estate are negotiable. So you don't have to feel like, oh, this is the way it works. The truth is your agent should be able to negotiate and work out any number of items, and we're going to go through those right now. You're going to first meet your real estate professional, and we went over questions that you could ask them. And I have a PDF that has 26 questions. There's probably 100 questions, but some things that you should be familiar with and feel the freedom to ask your agent, because you're trying to find here a person that is a trusted advisor. And then they're going to help you look for the right price, the right style home, and the right location. And one of the old adages for real estate is location, location, location. So you want to have someone that's going to coach you when you move into, say for instance, the Dallas-Fort Worth area. What's the best location in go? And that would be both for other people and then for your family. When you move to the second part, it's getting pre-approved. And this is very important, and it relates to your financial situation. So if you were working with me, I would be connecting you with an expert on finance and mortgage. And that expert is a part of our team, and he has been serving in this aspect of mortgages for 20 some years. So he is not only an expert in mortgage, but he also knows what to ask an individual, and he has a desire, in Tom's case, he has a desire to coach you to make sure you're doing the right thing financially. You're not just another number and he's trying to sell you a mortgage. He wants to help you navigate what's the best timing and the best way for you to do financing for your home. And he will help you determine what your budget is. What can you afford? You would give him some information and your credit score. He would run your credit scores. But all of that information then comes back to me to say, okay, we can afford a house for $300,000 or whatever the number is. And I know that a financial expert has looked at your situation and they're saying, we would do a mortgage for this family if the house costs up to $300,000. We know they can afford to make those payments. So the reason that's important is when we go to one of the next steps in making an offer, we want to be able to tell the seller that you are well qualified to buy this house. You're not just dreaming and hoping, but you can afford to buy it. So that's the pre-approval process. And
yeah,
then
that one real quick, Larry. I think that pre-approval part can be the most intimidating for people coming off the field because for us, I mean, we've been making China money, living in China, we've been making money from the US, but living in China. And so the cost of living is lower. And so when I remember when we sat down, we thought there's no way we can afford a house. We are making very little money. And sometimes, our bank statements could be from different countries, all over the place. So it actually was very helpful to know that we had someone coming alongside of us to help ask the right questions and, look for the right bank statements, because we just had no idea that we could even afford a house because of the amount of money we made. So I feel like this pre-approval stage is probably the most intimidating initial stage.
Totally makes sense. And it feels like you're sort of revealing stuff that you're not sure you're comfortable telling to other people. And you want somebody, again, that's trusted and that understands this world of finance, and situations change regularly. COVID has caused the mortgage industry to adjust and to shrink in some places and expand in others. And so you want someone that has experience there. And most good realtors will have a trusted financial partner who does mortgages. And we use a guy named Tom with Benchmark Mortgage, and they have places all over the U.S. So that would be one way that I could help you connect. But also there are many other very trusted mortgage companies that would be able to give advice that way. And there also, Carrie, are a lot of programs that help individuals who don't have a lot of money saved up. They can put a low amount down, and whether it's FHA or first-time home buyers or VA for those who have served in the military, there's a lot of different opportunities and options out there, and a good mortgage person can introduce you and kind of help you think through what the best solution for a person's particular need. Then once you get the pre-approval, then you're going to start searching, and that's when I start helping you identify, okay, where do you want to live? What part of the town? How much can you afford? We just got that information from the mortgage person. And so we set up searches. And certainly you can use Zillow and Realtor.com and other search engines and apps out there, but we have several that are available, and I'm going to have one on the link that's called Home Scout, and it pulls directly from the local MLS, which helps you avoid getting your hopes set or pursuing a house that already is sold or it's pending, or maybe it's for lease versus for sale. And sometimes the off-the-shelf apps get those things confused. But your realtor will actually set you up on a search and help you begin to look at a number of homes. Now, you're going to be asking questions about your neighborhood, the school system. Those kind of things are things you want to know. What's the crime rate in this neighborhood? What are the community amenities? Is there a pool? Is there access to shopping and grocery stores, those kind of things? And to identify those, they actually play into the ability to be able to resell at a later date if you find a good location. So searching is fun, but there's also some things that you could benefit from a good coach. The next step is when you find one, you go, this checks a lot of our boxes. This checks all the boxes on our desires. And my wife and I, during that time, always make a long list, and it's our prayer list. And we just ask God to bring something out or bring us in contact with a place that he wants us to live and what fits our needs. And we have seen him do some amazing things as we just committed that finding the home into his hands. The realtor will help you make an offer. And that offer, one of the strong parts of a good offer is my client can afford this. We have a pre-approved letter from the lender that says they can get a mortgage for up to this amount of money. And let's just say it's $300,000. And then they also will put the offer together that says we can close on this house in 30 days or 60 days or whatever the length of time. We will also be able to provide family who's selling to lease it back for a week because they can't move until a certain time. That's all bound up in the offer, and the offer is basically the contract written, ready for the seller to sign. And that will be all the terms and all the things are laid out. Your realtor will go over this with you, and then you'll send it to the seller. And at that point, the seller looks at it with their agent and they begin to negotiate. Let's say that we offered $300,000 for that house, and they come back and say, we want to sell it for $310,000. That's as low as we'll go. Well, that's the negotiation process here and signing the contract. And so maybe after talking and emailing back and forth, the agents help the two parties come together and say, well, we'll sell it for $305,000. And so then they execute that contract, which basically means both parties sign the contract and it moves ahead. And at that point, when you're under contract, you begin to do the diligent work to make sure that the house is everything that you thought it was. You walked through, you loved it, but you need to know if the foundation is good or if the air conditioners are 2 years old or 12 years old. Those are the kind of things that might not be clear when you're just walking through and viewing the house. And so that is while you're under contract, you're going to be doing what we call the inspection. Also, for the bank to loan you the money, they're going to do an appraisal. And that'll happen during that contract time when you're under contract. And as a buyer, you have a number of ways to end the contract. Let's say that we had agreed on 305, Carrie, and you and Brad were working with me, and the bank comes back and says, well, guys, this house is only worth $295,000. We can only loan you enough money to buy a house like that. Well, then That's the whole reason we're under contract. And you have the option to back out of the deal, or you may have the option to pay a little bit of extra money from your own savings, because this is the perfect house that you dreamed of and you really, really want it, even though it appraises for a little less than what you're buying it for. Those are the kind of decisions that happen under contract. Then the final details would be when they, in this example, when they're doing the inspection and when they're doing the appraisal, and you're looking at all the final details before you come to what the real estate terminology is closing. And closing is when everybody signs the papers and when the mortgage company, the money, whoever has it, is transferring that money to the seller. And the seller gets his money and gets paid, and you get the keys to your house. And that's what happens when the contract is closed and finalized. So, in a nutshell, that's the process from the beginning of finding an agent all the way around to closing. And I'm wondering, Carrie, if any other questions popped into your mind.
Well, this is super, super helpful. And I like the way that it's laid out. It's real clear, kind of the different steps. Could you give us a general sense? So when our family was buying our first house last summer, we had 4 days to find a house and start the process. And I wasn't even there. My Brad was here. He had 4 days. I think he said he looked at 20 houses in one day, because we knew that we don't have the time. The next time we're in Arizona, all of our kids will be here, and that didn't sound like fun. So that is not an ideal way to go about it, is to have, 4 days to buy a house. And
Right.
But that was the reality for us. We bought it. I was just looking at houses on FaceTime. And so can you give us just a general sense, like in an ideal world, how long should we have to maybe go through the process, knowing that, there's hiccups sometimes with the inspection. Yeah. There's hiccups with such things. So could you give us here's the ideal amount of time, and then maybe also, okay, if you don't have that much time, where are some ways that you can maybe help speed up the process by gathering resources or emailing preemptively or something?
No, that's a great question. And last summer, I helped not a missionary, but a guy who was retiring from the Navy, and they were moving from Thailand. And he was here in the U.S., but his family and his wife hadn't moved yet. And so we went around and looked at probably a dozen homes and walked through them together. Now, what we did, and I've done this before, and people are doing it during COVID, they are doing a video or a FaceTime while they're walking through the house. And that is always a good thing to do. And if one of the husband or the wife is traveling and is on site, and the other spouse is back in another location, and that could easily happen like it happened to y'all, then FaceTime is really helpful, because as you're walking around, if you had been on FaceTime, you could say, "Stop, Brad, show me that the kitchen again," and go back through it. And then obviously you're not limited just to a few pictures that are posted online. And so that would be one helpful thing when you're walking through and looking at possible homes. It's also very important to try to narrow while you are looking online, both by looking at the map and the location and the schools, and then maybe something as important to you, but some others might say silly, but if you wanted white cabinets versus brown cabinets, I don't know, if I'm just using that as an example, then it would be easier to pick the 4 houses that have the white cabinets, and then maybe add 2 at the end of the day that have brown, because you really can get kind of overwhelmed and your
Yeah.
brain turns to mush and you go, I really remember liking that house, but I don't remember which one it was. And that's the confusion that happens when you're in a real condensed time frame and have to find something.
Yeah.
So those would be, narrow your search as you can with photos and online. Go and see 3, 5, maybe 10 houses over a couple of days period. And you can prepare for that ahead of time by going online and looking. And then the other preparation is you can have a conversation with a mortgage person ahead of time. All that can be done in advance. Once you know that you're moving to the Dallas area or to the Phoenix area and you've got a trusted real estate person, they can help you find a local lender. And I will just insert here, oftentimes a local lender is better than a big bank because the bank is going to treat you much more as a number and as an impersonal item versus an individual who knows you and who cares about what you're doing and how you have come to the place you are in your journey. And that is always easier to work with a local lender. And most of the realtors will know somebody like that.
Yeah, that's helpful because I think the lending part was tricky for us because we're having to gather bank statements, and someone even asked for my husband's PhD degree or something to make sure that what he was doing now was related to what his degree did. Well, we don't even know. I don't even know if we've ever pulled his degree out of the tube. So we had to just go rummage through boxes, and so that took longer, I think, for us than it probably would someone who has already been established in the States, because some of our banking is in Chinese and some of it, we lived in Taiwan for several months and then, so it's complicated. So that's good to know that you can really start that process, the gathering, really quickly.
And that reminds me, and we can put this resource on later. I don't have it pulled together, but maybe the most, the top 10 documents that you need for the mortgage process.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that if someone Googles that, they can find, you need to pull your W-2 statements, your bank accounts, other assets, possibly your education degrees, those kind of things, because the mortgage the mortgage company is trying to establish validity on who you are and what kind of situation you're in financially. So that's a good reminder.
Yeah, and for anyone who has been fundraising, their finances, if you look at them, then you're not familiar with the missions world and the ministry world, it looks super shady.
Oh yeah, very.
Your money's coming from all over the place.
They're like, what is going on with this?
What have you actually been doing for the last 15 years? So that I feel like is a really big one. And the other one I wanted to loop back to, can you say the name of the app again? Home Buyers?
Home Scout is the name.
Okay.
And I will have a link to that in the PDF.
Okay.
And that's just one that we recommend and use. There's probably some others out there, but if somebody wanted to get that.
Yeah, and those are helpful as well, because that can also, like you were talking about, if someone were to come to you and you were working with them, you have a specific number, and so as they're looking at houses, I guess, can they favorite them so that then you as the agent have a sense of, okay, this is what they're looking at, this is what they like and don't like, and so it can really narrow the search of when you're actually needing to go and look.
Yes, exactly. Right? And if they were not in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, then that would be information we would send to their agent, or their agent would have a similar app so that the agent can see the type of homes that are kind of a pattern of what you're looking at. And obviously I'm going to ask, do you need a 3-bedroom or a 4 or a 5? What size house? How many square feet? What do you want a swimming pool or not? Down the line, all those kind of things will help us narrow the search and make our time efficient. And there's really not, back to your comment earlier, there's really not a standard. There are a lot of people that do come and look for a house in a very condensed period of time. There's nothing wrong with that, but it can kind of create mush in your mind when you're trying to do something with one visit. And so individuals that have moved from here from out of town, if I can start talking with them a month in advance, we can begin to even have some video calls and talk about whether they've even visited or not, and discuss different homes and their desires. And then when they come to visit, I can make the time very, very efficient. If they're here for 2 or 3 days, we can make the time count and be the most valuable when they're here, because I can set up those appointments and schedule those showings the first couple of days, and then I'll leave us a day to circle back and narrow down to the top 2, or maybe even pick the home that they want to try to make an offer on.
Yeah, that's really helpful. And so on average, would you say beginning to end? I mean, I know it's maybe tricky to say, but on average, how many months can we kind of expect the process to start, or from start to finish?
If you are able and ready, we have started the process as much as 2 to 3 weeks from start to finish and be done. Most people, when they're having to use a mortgage company, it's very unusual. And certainly I can say right now with COVID that most lenders cannot close from the time a contract is executed until it's closed is at least 30 days.
Okay.
So 30 days is probably a minimum right now to get something from the time the contract is executed till close. And there's a lot of work in there to make it happen in 30 days. Ideally, I would love to talk to somebody 60 to 90 days out, because that gives us a chance to sort and to search and to find a place. And then we can set up the closing for 30 days or for 45, sometimes as long as 60 days out. And that gives you a lot of time to get moved and to get here and to get all the details settled. But I would say 60 days, 30 to 60 days would be good average for most people when they know that they're ready. The other thing that I would throw out there is, if you're moving in and you use the scenario, I think, Carrie, if someone's transitioning back and maybe they're in missionary housing or temporary housing for 3 to 6 months, well, it's not out of the question to go ahead and start the search process. I have probably 5 different clients right now that are anywhere from 3 to 12 months out from buying. And by doing that process and even talking to a lender, some of those individuals are able to speed up the process, and they go, well, I thought we would need to save money and do this, this, and this, and it would be 12 months. And we're finding, no, we can actually do that now in 2 months, because the lender helped you see you've got enough down payment, the interest rates are great, and if a house pops up, you're able to go for it. So it's not out of the question. I'm happy to work as an agent with somebody that's even as much as a year out, to give them time to process and to think through that situation.
That's super helpful, and a much wiser way of doing it than how we did. So
well, the Lord has a way of intervening on those quick ones and still guiding us to the right place.
it's true. It is true. We found this house that we're in while my husband was on the way to the airport.
Wow.
They said, let's just look at this one, and it wasn't even officially out yet. Anyway, it was great. So the Lord definitely took care of us, but it was hard work along the way.
Yeah.
So
Oh yeah.
I really do appreciate you kind of untangling this process, because it can be very intimidating for most of us. We just moved into apartments. We looked on Monday, in China, we looked for an apartment on Monday and we moved in on Wednesday, and there wasn't a lot of bells and whistles. They just wanted our money, and that was it. So the housing process is very intimidating, I think, for most of us. So I appreciate you making it a little bit easier to understand, set some good expectations. So anyway, we appreciate you and thankful for the way that you're helping us figure these things out.
Just want to tell everyone that it would be my honor. I really feel like it's part of my ministry to be able to hop on a call or do a Zoom call or just message on Facebook, whatever would help answer specific and particular questions that you guys are facing as you make this transition. And so please don't hesitate to reach out and let me know how I can help you.
Will do. Thanks so much, Larry. Appreciate it.